I'll just hit record and you can take it away, Ralph.
Great, thank you very much. Hi everyone, my name is Ralph Velasco and welcome to Get Paid to Travel, how to organize and lead your own tours around the world. I'm the founder of Photo Enrichment Adventures and creator of the Tour Organizer Training online course series. So let me ask you, are you doing what you love? Are you looking to make real money from travel? Do you want to truly leverage your following? I'm assuming that a lot of you out there are very active with social media, have very good social media followings, and this could be a really great way to leverage that following. People that are already interested in what you do, they know you, they trust you. So you are in the right place. So let's do a little snapshot overview. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my background and why I'm qualified to be here talking about this subject. I'll give you an overview of what you'll learn, and then we'll get right into the meat and potatoes, and there will certainly be a Q&A, as Kirsty mentioned. So I was looking to expand my business. I organize and lead tours around the world. I'm a travel photographer. And a very wise woman said, you know, you're looking for the horse you're riding on. And that wise woman was my mother. So we were talking about just sitting at the kitchen table, and mentioned to her that I was looking to expand my business. And as I said, I'm a travel photographer first, and organize and lead tours as part of what I do. And I thought that, you know, I want to get into the online course realm. And so it kind of made sense that I teach travel photography. Perhaps I should create an online course about travel photography. Well, as you probably know, those are pretty much a dime a dozen now. And so I didn't want to have to compete with all the other more established ones that were out there. And so what she meant by that is that the answer is right there in front of me. And if there's anything that I know how to do, it's how to organize and lead tours. So a little bit about my background. I've been a lifelong traveler since 1979, when at 15 I studied in Spain for a summer. Following year I was a volunteer in Peru, then the next year volunteer in Venezuela. Following year I studied in Mexico City. I sold my first restaurant in 1987, and I said, before I do anything else, I'm going to take a round the world trip. This was 1988. So I went away for 5 months, 15 countries, 5 continents. This is before the internet, before cell phones, almost before the wheel. But you can imagine what it took to put trips together back then. I've sold real estate. I was a marketing director for a division of a Fortune 500 company. And I'm currently location independent since 2013. So, question, how would your ultimate job look? Would you be your own boss? Would the only suit you own be a bathing suit? Would it involve travel? So you run that business from anywhere with a laptop from anywhere. Would you meet and interact with interesting people? Have incredibly unique experiences? Learn about new cultures and languages? Be with people at the best time of their lives. I mean, they're on vacation. And get paid well to do this? Well, welcome to my job. That's what I get to do. Here I am in a couple locations around the world, Lake Bled, Slovenia, leading our Highlights of the Adriatic tour. Here in Western Cuba, Viñales, with my good friend Benito Camello. Some of you may even know or have met him in Western Cuba. He's one of the master tobacco farmers out there. Here I am with a couple from Romania, Ileana and Dinu. They are sheep herders in a town called Gina, Romania. So let me ask you a question, and please raise your hand Are you currently leading tours? Are any of you currently leading tours? So if you are, please raise your hand. Okay, so it looks like a number of you are. That's great. Good deal. Well, this is still for you, even though you are already leading tours, but I'm sure you can get some good information here. So my aha moment, I call it the infamous yellow pad. So I had my second restaurant in 2001 to 2004, and I was getting at the end of my initial lease, and I said to myself, am I going to sell the restaurant, or am I going to sign for another 5-year lease and commit to this for another 5 years? Well, what I did is I took a legal pad, and on the left-hand side, I wrote what I disliked about the restaurant industry. I had to have employees. I had a $5,000 rent that came due every single month. I had a lot of money tied up in inventory. I worked in hot and sticky conditions. I came home smelling like a French fry every night. And every day was pretty much the same. And there was zero creativity. So on the other side of that page, I wrote the opposite of those things. I said, I don't want to have employees. I want to work virtually, have no rent. I don't want inventory. I want to sell a service. I want to work outdoors. I want to shower before work. And for there never to be a dull moment, and to be able to create on a daily basis. And so really that's how my tours sort of came to be. So since 2004, I founded my company, Photo Enrichment Adventures, part-time. I've been doing this full-time since 2008, so for about 9 years now. Since then, I've organized and led over 100 US-based trips and 80 international trips, which is all I do right now is international trips. I'm constantly adding new destinations. I'm heading to India on Monday to lead that trip for the first time. I just got back from scouting Bulgaria this past week. I was scouting Portugal this year for a trip that I'll be doing in the next 12 to 18 months. So constantly adding new destinations to our portfolio. And much of what I was doing, what I'm doing here is before social media. So 9 years ago, I don't even think Facebook existed. I know Twitter didn't exist. So those of you who have good social media followings and social media skills, this should be that much easier for you. So just a couple of the trips that I've led: Morocco, Romania, Cambodia, Vietnam, and I've done 16 people-to-people programs to Cuba. So I've been doing this for a while. So I like to say that it only took me 45 years to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I'm 54 years old now. I've totally been doing this full time for 9 years. But you know what? Most people never figure it out. So it doesn't matter how old you are, how young you are, you can still do this. Like they say, today's the first day of the rest of your life. So I'm going to just pepper in a couple quick stories here. This is a woman that I met on a scouting trip to Vietnam. I saw her and some of her colleagues planting rice in the Mekong Delta, and we're driving by, and I asked my driver if we could pull over. The guide came out with me, and as I often do, I asked them to translate for me. Of course, I don't speak Vietnamese. So he's just off the frame here, outside of the frame. And typically I'm asking him questions to ask the subject so I could keep them engaged, learn about them, and it also makes for better photography. Well, in this case, she's asking him questions about me. And so he'd have a conversation and say, so she's asking what your name is. I said, well, please tell her that my name's Ralph. He'd tell her that, come back to me, say, so she's wondering where you're from. I said, well, tell her that I'm from Chicago, United States. He'd tell her that, come back to me, says, she's wondering what you do for a living. I says, well, I'm a travel photographer and I'm really enjoying her country. So he'd tell her that. They'd have a little conversation. He'd come back up to me and says, are you single? So, you know, these are the kind of experiences that I get to have, and I'm sure that you all get to have all around the world, but I don't know about you, but this is why I travel. It's to meet the locals and have fun experiences like this. So I want to break down in 7 steps what is involved in creating a highly successful tour. So there's the pre-scouting planning phase. There's the scouting trip itself. There's the post-scouting trip, so after you've done the trip and you're breaking that down. Then the pre-group trip build-up, so you're building up to the trip with your group. Then you actually have the group trip. Then you want to break down that, so you have this post-group trip analysis. And finally, rinse and repeat. So let's talk about each of these individually. So the pre-scouting planning phase. So today people don't want to just go sit on a beach for the most part. They're looking to learn a skill. They call these you know, active travel. So I say you should have a niche or a special interest for your tour. It could be travel blogging or travel writing, could have a culinary bent to it, could be about photography, which my trips are about. Maybe they're walking tours, have a volunteer charitable component to it, wellness, luxury, and on and on and on. There's a lot of different special interests. And I'm sure if you're a blogger, you probably have some sort of a niche for your blog. So my advice is teach what you love, the people will follow. Now, perhaps you're not the teaching type and you're thinking, you know, what could I teach, or I don't feel confident enough to teach something. Well, then you could be an aggregator of experts in the destination. And so what do I mean by that? Well, let's say that you have a special interest in food. You consider yourself a foodie, you enjoy food. I mean, food is such a big part of travel. So here are a few suggestions for the main highlights of a trip that you could put together based around food. So you could incorporate locally guided foodie tours, which is something that I'm doing more and more with my trips, and I'm going to tell you what our niche is in just a minute. But I come from a restaurant background. I grew up in the restaurant business. I'm 3rd generation. I told you that I've owned a couple myself. So I'm incorporating foodie tours guided by locals in the destination, especially in these wonderful food cultures like Turkey, Morocco, you know, many, many other places around the world. You can incorporate market walks, cooking classes, meetings with chefs, connecting with local food bloggers in the destination, people that can teach you how to purchase the food, how to prepare it, how to eat it. You can visit farms and even incorporate food photography into your trip. So these are just 7 components that could be wrapped in or folded into a really great trip based around food. Now you could come up with, I'm sure, 7 of these types of things for whatever your special interest is. But I recommend that you have a special interest for your trip. So our niche at Photo Enrichment Adventures is small group cultural tours with 6 to 11 participants. Photography is a part of our trip, so I'm not calling them photo tours anymore. They were never photo workshops, which to me is 12 hours a day photography all day long, you know, for 14 days straight. That to me is just too much. So photography is a part of our trips. We go to somewhat off the beaten path locations, stay at 3- and 4-star accommodations, provide unique experiences that allow our people to meet the locals, and I provide a half day of scheduled activities and a half day of free time on average. We don't include all meals because I want people to have to go out and fend for themselves, Plus, I like to attract the kind of traveler that doesn't need to be handheld 24/7. That's also why we do the half-day scheduled, half-day free time, because that allows people to go out and explore on their own, to bring a friend or a spouse who's not necessarily interested in photography and go pursue their own interests, not feel like they have to be with the group 24/7. And that also comes with regards to meals. So we provide all breakfast and on average one other meal per day. This allows people to go out, find their own restaurants, maybe things they found on TripAdvisor. They want to go high end one night, they want to skip a meal. No one's ever said that they've gone hungry on any of my trips. So like to give people an opportunity to skip a meal if they want. And that's resulted in over 42% of our clients repeating. Now, the reason I show you this is that when you go to put your trips together, if you're not doing so already, you should have this kind of an outline of what your trips are about so that you know exactly what your trips are about and the kind of people that you're trying to attract to your trips. So when I say that we're staying at 3- and 4-star accommodations, I'm not going to be attracting high-end, luxury-only 5-star accommodation type people. These are people that are still well-traveled, but are okay with 3- and 4-star, well-located, very clean, safe accommodations. That's going to attract a different type of traveler. So you have to determine what kind of traveler you're looking to attract. So as they say, the riches are in the niches. So what will your niche be? You have to determine that if you haven't already. So the pre-scouting phase, choose a destination that you love. I know sometimes people want to choose a destination that they think people want to go to, and that's fine, but why would you have this ability to create whatever kind of trip you want to create and not go to a place that you love? Number one, you're going to be super passionate about it and want to share it with your people. So you've got this creativity. You can create whatever kind of trip you want. I say choose a destination that you love. The key, though, is to find a local tour operator to help you put the trip together. And I'll get into that in a lot more detail in just a bit. But they're going to help you with deciding on the right itinerary. But you need to let them know exactly what you're looking for. And so I've come up with a document called the Tour Operator Expectation List. This is something that I didn't do for maybe 2 or 3 years. I decided maybe 2 or 3 years into doing this full time that I needed to come up with this document that clearly outlines to the tour operator what I'm looking for. You hanging in there? All right, because this is the big secret I'm telling you right now. And if you stick around till the end, you're going to receive this 7-page tour operator expectation list. So I'm going to give you this at the end. I'm going to give you a link that you can go and download this for yourself. But this is the key. So what's involved in that tour operator expectation list is you want to tell the tour operator about you, your company, and your clients. They need to know about you, what your company is about. Maybe you don't have a company yet, so you can kind of fudge around that a little bit. But what kind of clients you have or are looking to attract. You want to ask for their experience level and get references from them. Tell them the category, location, and type of accommodations that you're looking for. Guidelines for your guides, drivers, and transportation, what size vehicles, what kind of language skills, history, knowledge, experience in driving that these people need. The types of restaurants that you're looking to go to and bring your group to. The activities and experiences that you're looking for. Site visits. And the types of photo opportunities that you're looking for. And like I mentioned, I'm a travel photographer. My trips have a photography component to them. Yours may not, but you're still going to want great photo ops because that's going to help you to market your trip. Okay, so now the scouting trip itself. This is where you're going to know and learn the local customs while you're in the destination. You're going to meet everyone. Oftentimes the tour operator will be located in the destination itself. Sometimes they're not. but at least you're going to meet the local guides. And I always try to do the scouting trip with the guides that I will likely have on the trip itself. Staff at restaurants, hotels, things like that. So I want to stay at the hotels and go to the restaurants that I'm going to be bringing the group back to. Now I may see 2 or 3 times the amount of things that I'll see that I'll actually put together for the group trip. But when I put this trip together later, there's nothing that's more impressive than when I bring my group to a restaurant and the owner comes up and gives me a big hug, shakes my hand, says, "Welcome back, Mr. Velasco. Thanks for bringing your group." Same with my guides, hotels, etc. So get to know the local people there. Try everything in your niche, whatever that is, because again, you're going to probably do 2 or 3 times the amount of things you're actually going to include with the group. But you want to try those things so you have that experience and you know what to add or take away from the trip. Get great photographs and other content like video, and I'll talk about that a little bit more. But again, this is about marketing your trip later, having a great website, marketing materials, putting things up on Facebook and other social media. So whether it's got, whether your trip is about photography or not, you need to have great content. You should constantly be creating buzz for your trip. So if you follow me at all on the social media networks or certainly Facebook, when I'm in these locations, when I'm scouting, I'm constantly putting up pictures, content, sharing what I'm doing with my following so that people are starting to salivate a little bit. They're starting to see what I'm doing there, and that helps me to create this create the trip from create some buzz for my trip. This also establishes credibility with your audience. So they see you in the destination, they see you having these experiences, meeting these people, they know that you're there. That's going to establish really nice credibility. So as I mentioned before, get creative. You get to create whatever kind of trip you're looking to put together. That's the beauty of this. So now the scouting trip's over. You need to break that down. Confirm the final itinerary. Decide on the actual dates that you're going to be bringing your group back. Now my trips are typically done a year in advance because I want to come back at the same exact time of year, because sometimes they're based on a harvest or maybe there's a holiday or some kind of festival. But I need to have a confirmed final itinerary and actual dates so that I can get pricing from the tour operator. They need those 2 components. You want to know your expenses, so keep really good records of your expenses. Then you can price the trip to your clients. Now, something that I include in my course is my pricing spreadsheet. This is something I've developed over years. And so you just plug and play all these different expenses, what kind of markup you'd like. I want to talk about that in just a moment. So a few different pricing scenarios, and we're just talking round numbers here. Let's say you're looking for a free trip. You get 10 people and you go free. So all your expenses are paid. You get 10 people. You don't make any money, but your trip is entirely free. Or you want to make a small profit. So you get 10 people at $100 profit per person. Now you make $1,000 and get a free trip. Let's say you want to make a nice profit. You get 10 people, mark it up $500 per person. You make $5,000 and get a free trip. But let's say you want to make a really nice profit. You get 10 people, mark it up $1,000. You can make $10,000 and get a free trip. Now, I'm not telling you that you're going to make this kind of money. These are possibilities, depends on who you're selling to. If you're doing a backpacking trip, it might be difficult to mark it up $1,000, but depends on the type of client that you're going for. So again, these are just very round numbers to give you an idea of what you can do. So I hear this question a lot. If I've already been to a place, can I avoid the trouble and expense of scouting it? So people want to, I've been to a place many times. Can I avoid the trouble and expense of scouting it? And my answer is probably not. This is really the most crucial step to putting together a great trip, is the scouting. Plus, why would you skip it? Scouting can be great fun. To me, it's one of the best parts of my job, being there in the destination, one-on-one with the local guide, the local tour operator, having these experiences. They can be very fast-moving because, like I said, we're doing 2 to 3 times the amount that we'd actually do with a group in the same period of time. So it can be a little bit exhausting, but you're going to have some great experiences being one-on-one with a local guide. They're going to get you into places that you may not be able to get into with a group of 6 or 10 people or more. So I also get a question, can I use the information I learned on a FAM trip to avoid scouting? So a lot of us are going on FAM trips, that destinations are taking us to these places. And again, my answer is perhaps, but I wouldn't recommend it. Because on a FAM trip, you have no control over timing, when you're in places, how long you're there, the experiences that you're going to have. You're pretty much at the beck and call of the other participants in the group. So I think it's well worth it to do the scouting on your own. So I'm going to tell you a quick story that I call the pain in Spain. Have a little sip of water here. So I'd been to Spain many times. Like I said, I studied there in 1979. I've probably been there 6 or 8 times since. I love it. I know it well. It's one of my favorite destinations. I speak Spanish. I said, I'm going to plan a trip to Spain and do it soup to nuts. I'm going to plan it on my own. I had a very part-time assistant at the time named Rebecca. She was helping me. So we're trying to cut out the middleman, that tour operator, to save money, right? Because they're going to mark up their services to you. There's no doubt about it. They're providing a service, so they need to make money. So when it came down to it, it was a 12-day trip. So we're staying at 4 different hotels, 1 meal a day that we were providing. So that's 12 different restaurants. We had 3 different types of transportation. I needed 4 guides, 1 in each city. So there's 4 cities. We had 3 transfers, 6 experiences. And that means that we had to deal with 32 plus vendors. Can you imagine? Dealing with 32 different vendors to put this trip together. Well, that was the last time I did that. I think I know I was trying to be penny wise and pound foolish. That's what I was. It was, trying to save money. In the end, it cost me way more, certainly in my time. So I don't recommend doing that, trying to cut out that middleman. Even if you know a place, you got to do a scouting trip. That's my recommendation. You don't have to, but I hope you're here to learn from my experience. Like I said, please take advantage of my mistakes. This is, I learned this on my own. No one taught me this. I had no mentor, nothing. I learned how to do this. So I've made every mistake there is. So please learn from my mistakes. Another quick story, a couple little girls that I met in Hoi An, Vietnam, and they're sisters, and they're selling these little candles that they put in these containers. You purchase them for the equivalent of about $1, and you drop them into the river there. They float down the river, and you make a wish. Well, I'm deciding if I'm going to do this, and I look down the river and I see hundreds of these little candles floating down the river. And so I'm thinking to myself, do I want to be a part of this minor environmental disaster that's going on here with all these candles floating down the river? And then I realized that their little brothers were downriver picking up the candles and selling them back to us. So I thought, okay, well, as long as they're recycling, I'll contribute. And my wish came true. All right, so let's talk about the pre-group trip buildup. So now you're building up to the group trip itself. You want to prepare your people for the trip, set expectations. I learned this very early on too, that you need to set expectations with your clients. So at the beginning, you're going to want to take money from anyone who will give you money to get onto a trip. But that can, again, be penny wise and pound foolish, because you don't want someone to come onto your trip that it isn't right for. In the long run, it's going to go against you. So make sure people know exactly what they're in for. So I've got a very detailed set of frequently asked questions, and it talks about the local customs in the place, tipping guidelines, do's and taboos, but it also talks about me and my company and what our trips are like. So I've accumulated all the questions that I've been asked over the years and put them into this document so that people can read through it and filter themselves out if they're not right for my trips. Because I don't want them coming on one trip thinking, expecting a different kind of trip. I want to confirm everything again with the tour operator right before the trip. I want to pay the tour operator if you need a way to pay them. And I build a community around the trip. This is something that I did 2 or 3 years into doing this as well. So I set up a private Facebook group for my people that are going on each individual trip. And this way they get to know each other before the trip even happens. So they're not just getting to know each other in the destination. There's some rapport. I have everyone introduce themselves. They share information, packing tips, photography tips, documentaries, books, things that are relevant to the destination. But remember your ABCs. Always be confirming. You always want to be confirming with the tour operator. Make sure that you're on the right page, the same page with them. So the group trip itself, you thought herding kittens was a challenge. Well, just try herding travelers. Now, this is only 6 people. My groups go up to 11, as I mentioned, but I like to call this my dream team. These are very, very good clients of mine. We did a trip to Copper Canyon, Mexico. If you're not familiar with Copper Canyon, it's bigger and deeper than the Grand Canyon and has one of the great train rides of the world right through it. It's the only passenger train in all of Mexico. And it's got the Tarahumara Indians, which are a fascinating culture. They live in caves and cliff overhangs till this day, many of them. But the average amount of trips that these people have been on with me is probably 5. So each of these people has been on at least 5 trips with me. Patrick, the second from the left, has been on 12 or 13 of my trips. So this was my dream team. These people have traveled with me a lot before. And eventually you're going to get to that place. You're going to want people talking about your trips, coming back over and over again, and getting that repeat client rate up. So the group trip itself, I always like to arrive early to acclimate, get over jet lag, do some pre-scouting when I'm by myself, and then confirm everything again. I have a meet and greet. That's a meeting that we have the first evening that we're in the place. This is often the first time that people get to meet each other in person, but they already have this rapport with each other from the Facebook group. This way I can set the stage that I'm the leader, let people know exactly what my plans are for the group. I've got some guidelines that I set out, but it continues to establish credibility and respect with the group. But you also want to be able to provide that service for which people registered. In my case, it's providing that photography instruction, because I teach photography on my trips. Not everyone is necessarily interested in photography, because my trips are open to photographers and non-photographers alike. And you may open your trips to people that are not necessarily interested in your niche or that special interest, but that's entirely up to you. You want to get photographs and testimonials on site. So while your people are in the destination, when I'm with my people, I just, maybe we're walking along and I see a beautiful background or something. I take out my iPhone. I say, hey, Joe, would you mind giving me a quick testimonial of how you're enjoying the trip? And then I put them off to one side, use that rule of thirds, show this beautiful background, and then you've got this person that's on your trip currently enjoying it, giving you a testimonial. But I'm also getting photographs of my people involved in activities, having fun with each other, meeting the locals, and those are things that I'm going to use later in my marketing. So then the trips happen. Now I want to do the post-trip analysis. So I want to keep the trip going in my participants' mind. So that's continuing with the Facebook group. I do something where people share images. We can talk about them. It's a great way to share information. A lot of times people do research after a trip, so they'll share documentaries and books even after, things that they found out. You want to survey your clients, find out what they liked about the trip, what they didn't like, what they might have done differently. Certainly ask for written testimonials and referrals. You know, there's nothing better than having someone that's actually been on your trips talking about you and your trips. That goes so much further than me talking about my trips and how great they are. When you've got a third party talking about them, that goes a long way. So what I'll do is, like I said, I'll take that video. So here we are doing a tuk-tuk adventure in Cambodia, and I'm sitting in the back. The ladies are sitting facing me, and I said, hey, ladies, would you mind giving me a quick testimonial how you're enjoying the trip? And then they'll give me that. Here, Michelle in Saigon, we're photographing around the market. Hey, Michelle, give me a quick testimonial. How are you enjoying the trip? Here we are in Skouda, Morocco, Fez, Morocco. So again, these are real people on your trip giving you testimonials. And then written ones. Tom was just on my Vietnam trip. I've got to tell you, I love to travel, and this is the best trip I've ever taken in my life. Patrick, the best thing about Ralph's trips is that I don't feel like a tourist. Liz says, truly, I travel the ends of the earth to photograph with Ralph. I mean, these are real people saying these things. I could tell you how great I am, how great my trips are, all I want, but when other people that have been on my trips tell you these things, it's much more believable. So get these testimonials while you're in this in the destination. So rinse and repeat. And what I mean by that is, did you have fun? Was it what you expected? Was it profitable if that's what you were going for? Then do it again. Why not, right? You've already had the expense of the scouting trip. You can, you know, cookie cutter it. Now it's not going to be no work at all. I'll be the first to tell you that, even if you're doing a trip over and over. I've done Cuba 16 times. It's not like I just show up the first day and we go. There's still a lot of preparation before those trips, a lot of breakdown after. But you've got that expense now gone, and you've got that experience. So another question I get is, what if I don't get enough people to fill a trip? So I told you my trips are 6 to 11 participants. What if I only get 4 or 5 people? Do I cancel the trip? Well, it depends. So what I would do in that case is I would go to my tour operator and I'd say, you know what, I've only got 4 or 5 people on this trip. Can we still make it a go? And they'll say, what they'll likely say is, well, you know, I can still give you pricing for 4 or 5 people, but of course the pricing per person is going to go up. Now I've already charged my people. I can't raise my price, but that price is usually not, you know, ridiculously, it doesn't go up exponentially. So I could still maybe make a profit, but what if I can just break even? Well, don't give up. So can you break even? That might be a possibility. But more importantly, you're going to gain the experience of leading that trip, plus get the free travel. You get to create content to help you sell. So you get those testimonials and pictures of people enjoying themselves on site. So you want to create that content, get those pictures, and you get to make your mistakes with a small group. So I definitely say don't give up when you are getting close to, you know, that trip coming up and you've only got, you're missing a couple of people from your minimum. there may still be a way to salvage that trip and have all these benefits, and you're traveling for free. So those are the 7 steps. Do you see how if it's broken down step by step, that it's pretty simple, but not necessarily easy to organize and lead your own tours? I mean, what kinds of tours? They can be local in your own hometown. They can be domestic in your own country. They can be international. Now, I started out very slowly doing just 2-hour walking tours or sitting across the kitchen table from someone teaching them how to use their digital camera. But like I said, I didn't have anyone to teach me how to do this. So I had to figure it out for myself. And I think I was very smart in not jumping right into international trips right off the bat. But now you can do that. You can jump to an international trip because, you know, this is laid out step by step. They can be one-day or weekender trips. They can be extended. So most of my trips are anywhere from 12 to 14 days now, and I do 9 or 10 a year, plus 2 or 3 scouting trips. They can be in one location where you stay in one location for a week or 10 days and maybe do little side trips. Or you can jump around from different locations, which are typically what I do. So we tend to stay anywhere from 2 to 4 nights in each location. You can go anywhere from backpacker to high-end luxury. You get to decide. So who is something like this for? Well, travel bloggers, armchair travelers, business owners. So I see this for someone that maybe has a yoga studio and they want to put together a once-a-year trip for their 10 best clients to do a retreat to India. Or maybe you're a chef and you want to bring a group to Tuscany or Provence for a culinary tour. There's always some sort of a special interest that you can build these trips around. Retirees, stay-at-home moms and pops, teachers especially, second careers, someone looking for extra income, and on and on and on. So some of the takeaways I want to leave you with: set expectations, both with the tour operator and your clients. Make sure that they know what they're in for and that you're delivering what they are expecting. Do not underestimate the importance of scouting. I hope I've made that clear. Always be confirming. Continually be creating buzz for your trip. Know that your current clients are your best advertisement. Get them talking about you, word of mouth. Teach what you love, the people will follow. Or you could be that aggregator of experts, don't forget. And you probably figured this out, but this is not a vacation. It's just the best job ever. So a lot of people see me on the road 9 months out of the year in these wonderful locations, and they think I'm on vacation. Well, as you probably know, this is not a vacation. It can be a lot of work, but talk about a great job. I mean, I get to talk about travel, be traveling, be in these destinations, meet these people almost 24/7. It's great. So what now? You can continue doing what you're doing, and if you're happy with it, fantastic. That's great. You can decide to make a change if that's what you're looking for. I don't know. Save tons of time and lots of money learning from my mistakes. I'm telling you, I made them all. And I wish something like this was around for me. I would have saved literally hundreds of hours and tens of thousands of dollars if someone could have taught me how to do this. But please learn from my mistakes. You know, I'm not sure I'll ever get rich doing this, but there's no one who can take away the rich experiences I've had over the years. And I make a fine living sharing the world with my friends / clients, because my clients are more friends than anything. I mean, like I said, they're coming back on my trips over and over again. They know each other from other trips. It's a really fantastic community. So I feel like I'm traveling with friends as opposed to clients, and that makes it even that much better for me. So I say invest in a change, get out and travel. You can go to our Facebook page, / tour organizer training. Would love it if you gave me a like over there. And my company, if you want to look at our website, is at photoenrichment.com. So you can see what I'm doing for my tours. You can see all my information there. And I thank you for your attention. And I want to get you that tour operator expectation list. So if you simply go to this link, tourorganizertraining.com /travel massive, you'll be able to download that tour operator expectation list. I'm telling you, this is the key to this, and it's going to save you a ton of time coming up with this document for yourself. You simply will customize it for you and your company and what type of trip you'd like to lead. So tourorganizertraining.com /travel massive to get that. And then I'd love it if you connected with me. So again, that Facebook page, and then I'm pretty much at Ralph Velasco or at Photo Enrichment on all the social networks. So please do connect. That's what I have for you. So do we have any questions?
Okay, awesome. Thanks so much, Ralph. So yeah, let's just take some questions now. So guys, just raise your hands if you have a question, and then I'll unmute you so you can ask. Okay, so I'll just, Abigail Andrews.
Hi, how are you?
Very good.
Thank you so much. This webinar was very informative. I really appreciate it. How important is a hosting agency? Do you think it's important?
What do you mean by hosting agency?
You know, like an agency that you would sign up to have access to several like vendors, like flight vendors, like airline vendors. I heard you mentioned something about fam tours, so.
Yeah, I don't do any fam tours anymore. I've done a few, but like I said, I like to be in control of timing on the trip when we are in a place, because again, I want the best photography, and you should too for your trips. So getting out early, staying out late when the light's better. Oftentimes when you're on a fam trip, 100% of the time you have no control over almost anything. So I like to be in control of that. Yeah, it's great to have a free trip on a fam trip, but again, I think it's being a little penny wise and pound foolish. I don't know if that answered your question. I'm not 100% sure what you mean by hosting.
No, I meant like a hosting agency, like a lot of people, well, I've come across a hosting agency, like for example, they'll have these something like Evolution Travel, and you sign up with them, and then you have access to supposed like vendors, like airline vendors that supposedly you're able to make commission off of, like creating packages from these hosting agencies.
Oh, I guess that's something I'm just not familiar with.
Oh, okay, so you do it differently.
Yeah,
okay.
I do. Yeah, I work with a local tour operator. That's what I do, and I think that's the key to this whole thing.
One last thing, so you don't in your tours, it's basically online tours. It's not do you include flight with yours, like airline?
Yeah, I include internal flights, if any. Some of my trips do include internal flights, but I do not include the flight to and from the destination, because my people are coming from all over the world. They want to arrive early, stay late, use different airlines, use miles. It's just a nightmare to try to figure that out. And I think with the airlines, even to start thinking about giving you any kind of a discount, you need probably 15 people all traveling on the exact same itinerary.
Thank you. This was very helpful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I think we've got a question from T now. Go ahead, T. You're unmuted.
Hi there. This is T. Thank you so much for the information that you shared. I found it very helpful as well.
Pleasure.
So my question is about your trip to Cuba. I have a small company that I've started offering small group experiences, and I've been considering Cuba, but there's such a huge hurdle to clear before you can actually be allowed to bring groups to
Yeah, Cuba is a difficult destination, and I think Mr. Trump is making it even more difficult. You know, it started to get a little bit easier, but it's still doable. But you know, there's so many places in the world that you know, I thought that when they were starting to take away some of the difficulty of doing these trips, that my business was going to go down. But there's still a lot of interest, of course, in Cuba. But most of the places that we go to, that I bring groups to, you don't need me to organize and lead your trip. You could put your own trip together. But there is definitely a market for people out there who don't want to have to put together their own trips. They want to just show up and have everything arranged for them. And that's the kind of traveler that I'm going for. And it's still not that person that wants 24/7 arranged for them. So they want some free time, and they feel comfortable going out on their own, and they're not standing around twiddling their thumbs. What do I do during my free time? They know how to fill it. They're comfortable with that. They want that free time. So it just depends the kind of traveler that you're going after. Hope that helps.
Okay, we've got a question from Elise now.
Hello.
Hi, Ralph. Hi, thanks so much for the presentation.
Pleasure.
Just on the business side of things, wondering if you can talk about, you know, it sounds like you were kind of self-funded from your restaurants, but, you know, is that kind of typically how it's done? Or are there other strategies for some of that initial you know, startup capital for scouting trips, and then taking it from a part-time to a full-time experience? I mean, it sounds like 2 years is, I don't know, to me that sounds like a pretty short amount of time. So kind of how you were able to do that, or any strategies for doing that.
Yeah, like I said, I started out very slowly with just doing little walking tours locally and things like that, and I've very gradually expanded. You know, scouting trips do cost money, and you know, it depends where you're going to, how long you're going for, but they might be less expensive than you think. As far as you know, there are some other ways to do it where there's different websites like With Locals and Culinary Backstreets and Eat With, where you can have a tour and have it be a part of their overall portfolio of tours. So when someone, you know, searches for tours in Prague, let's say, your tour would come up, or your experience would come up. And so that's one way. I've got a friend in Lithuania who is looking to put together some food tours, and she doesn't have the capital or the experience to put together her own website. And it doesn't have to be an expensive website. I mean, you can get a website done very inexpensively, you know, hiring people in the Philippines and offshoring. And so maybe for $300, you can get a website of maybe 3 or 5 pages. But let's say you don't even want to do that. You could be a part of these other companies and have a web page put up on their website where they've already got traffic coming to it. I think that's a great way to start with a low budget.
Thanks.
Pleasure.
Okay, great. I've actually got a question myself. So, you know, obviously I'm the editor-in-chief, so in Marketing We Trust, so I'm all about the content. And I know that we've got a lot of content creators on this webinar at the moment as well. So in your experience, what type of content has actually worked best to lure those travelers in to join one of your tours?
Well, because my trips are based on photography, certainly I got to have good photography. I am also doing a lot more video, and we can all do video on our smartphones. So that's another way to do it, is absolutely getting video. And it doesn't have to be cinema quality necessarily. It's great to get good quality, but it doesn't have to be Steven Spielberg stuff. So one thing though is more important than video is sound. So if you can have an inexpensive lavalier mic connected to your smartphone. If you're doing selfies, which I will often do selfie videos in a location, talking about what I'm doing, why I'm out, you know, things like that, tips, things like that. But using a lavalier microphone for maybe $50 or $60 is going to make your sound quality 10 times better. Even if you're interviewing people and just clipping it onto your the person that you're getting a testimonial from. You know, you don't get that wind noise and things like that. So video is becoming more and more popular just across the internet, but certainly photography is going to help sell almost any trip, because people want to see that visual, and they want to see your people having fun in the location, being involved in the activities, meeting the locals, things like that, you working with your people. So even if you could just have someone else on the trip taking pictures or videos, and I tell people on my trips, you know, let's get pictures of each other. You know, we're photographers. We often, you know, get pictures of everyone else, but we come home and we realize that we didn't get any pictures of ourselves. So if you could just get each other, get people to take pictures and video of each other, and then you can share those later, that's one way to get content for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as a content creator myself, I mean, I know we all go on and on about how important, you know, those visuals are, but we very often forget about that sound quality.
Yeah, people will watch a shaky video longer than they will a video with horrible sound. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Sounds really important.
So what platform, you know, works best to share your content on generally?
My people, and you have to determine where your people are mostly on Facebook. So my demographic is anywhere from like 45 to 75-year-old, skewed maybe 60-40 women to men. These are, middle income to middle upper class income type folks. They have time, they've got money. They're not first-time travelers, because we're going to some off the beaten path locations: Cambodia, Vietnam, Bhutan, Nepal, Morocco. Typically that's not going to be someone's first trip, although I have had some people where it was. So you want to be spending the most of your time where your people are, where your potential audience is. And for me, it's certainly Facebook. These people are not rarely on Twitter, maybe a little bit into Instagram. I'm even doing more on Pinterest, because I think that's where some of these people are.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know, of course, everyone's niche is going to be different in that regard to what their best platform is. But I think it's always good to get, that personal experience too.
Yes.
All right. So I don't think, it doesn't look like anybody else has any questions. So I guess it's time to end the webinar here. So thanks so much for joining, everyone. And of course, don't forget to sign up for our other upcoming webinars as well. We should have some more up shortly too. So thanks again, everyone, and see you all next time.
Thank you very much, folks. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.